The Crown argues it's proof she wanted to kill her kids and herself, rather than see their father have primary custody of them. The Crown argues it's proof she wanted to kill her kids and herself, rather than see their father have primary custody of them.
It's March 6, 2023. Global here is reporting on a attempted murder-suicide by a mom after a corrupt judge had decided to give the dad full custody of the children. Who's really on trial here is Global. What they tried to do is they stuck this in a sneaky little news clip where they headlined that it was a soldier who was on trial for murder, when actually it has nothing to do with what she did for a living. It is, and has everything to do that she was trying to kill her children. The Crown accuses her of trying to kill her children because a corrupt judge had given sole custody to the dad and taken away her custody. Now, Global doesn't say why this happened, because Global may not even know, because the highly, highly corrupt judicial system in Canada around family law is secretive. You don't get to know anything that's going on in those court cases. And hundreds of thousands of parents are being denied custody of their own children in Canada every single day. And as you probably heard me speak before, this is because it's a massive multi-billion dollar industry. It is the biggest industry in all of Canada. The number one industry that makes more money than any other thing in Canada is the divorce industry. It's a massive industry, and what it does is it pushes money around our system. But our system is imploding, and I've talked about that before. It's the cancer of our system. It's the social cancer of our system. Corrupt judges, corrupt lawyers, feeding off of families and dismantling families and destroying families and breaking families, as the state will want to be your new family. But this is not working. And you see this anger. You see over and over again that Canada is broken. And I believe this is what you call a root cause. This is the number one reason Canada is socially failing. And you see it on the streets. I mean, you see homelessness, you see epic drugs. Now, the NDP, where I live in British Columbia, will tell you that it's because of bad street drugs, right? You know, toxic street drugs. Well, this is true to some degree, but why are all these people doing drugs, right? I mean, are people picking up rocks, and eating them? No, because that's retarded. We can't say retarded now because we live in a politically correct world, a toxic politically correct world. So what we try to do is we try to make industries out of drugs, taking drugs off the street. And so now it's a massive industry, but the people that do it don't care. They're all about the money. So yeah, I believe in the capitalistic system to a large degree, but it's gone sideways. And the family law industry is solely responsible. Corrupt judges, and it's the corrupt federal government that runs our judicial, that want the money from families. So they terrorize families given custody of children to one parent over the other, and they make the other parent fight for years. I fought for over 15 years in our highly corrupt courts to get to know my own children. But then children fall through the cracks, right? Like I've talked about my son. He's now entered into the criminal justice system because he's been denied access to his dad, me, for 15 years. And, maybe I should have walked on day one. But they don't tell you this. There's no books on this. And the highly corrupt Canada, which is the highly corrupt Global News and the CBC, who essentially put out these news articles that hide the truth from the people. Because again, Global, they are the elites. They've come to the decision that Canadians should not really know what's going on. But I'm going to bounce back to what's happening here. Is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of parents and children are denied access to each other every year through our corrupt for-profit court system. that's extremely secretive, and it's family law, extremely secretive. Now, this is emotionally, financially horrible to parents, and they break. And this lady had broke, and she's being accused of murdering her own, attempted murder of her children. There's been another murder suicide this week in Richmond, and this goes on every single day. Murder, suicide, suicides, and straight murders, all related to family law. Almost every single one. And every single Amber Alert is related to family law. And the key to the highly corrupt elite in Canada, the lawyers, the judges, the PMO's office, the policymakers, all the elite know that Canada's going down. Canada's tanking. We have a massive debt. We got to keep money rolling to keep our system going, but this is not sustainable. But what they do is they take money from parents, using the children as pawns, extorting money from parents. And they do not maybe see the emotional trauma that they cause parents. But I believe they do. And that's why global and that's why the federal government goes to these news agencies such as the CBC and says, don't tell the truth. Hide it in news articles that parents are being financially and emotionally broken by the elite, by the highly corrupt, the parasitic people at the top, and they're snapping and they're killing their own children. And this is a news article by Global, where a mom now is on trial for trying to kill her children. Why? It all comes down to this sole custody. These words are so powerful. I know when I lost my children, um, the highly corrupt judges in New Westminster Supreme Court gave the mom sole custody. Now, I have no criminal record, don't smoke, don't drink. Why should I not have equal custody of my children? The reason is they knew that I would fight to see my children. Look, I know I got PTSD, but I never tried to murder my children. I had a close call with suicide. Um, my own personal suicide. Two of the lawyers in my case, who I went to the BC Law Society and explained to them that these lawyers were corrupt. These family law lawyers were corrupt. The Law Society basically just banned my emails from going to them anymore and said that I had to write letters to them. That way they wouldn't get so many emails from me telling them all the trials and tribulations I've been through. But then it turned out that these two lawyers had ripped off some clients in a non-family law matter, I think it was, and they both lost their licenses to practice law. There's so much corruption in our judicial system. It is absolutely mind-boggling. But that the main thing here, though, I'm trying to get across is family law is adversarial, intentionally adversarial, and it's all about extracting money from parents. But what happens is they're breaking down society. They're destroying Canadian society, because this isn't just happening to tens of parents. This is happening to hundreds of thousands of parents every single year, year after year. And for me, I got divorced over a decade ago, and I still have a complete 100% distrust of my judicial system, which is Canada. I do not trust Canada. I think it is broken. It is 100% broken. It is parasitic. It is toxic. And I don't see any hope for it, right? And so but I'm not going to go blow anything up, and I'm not going to go kill my children like many people are doing in Canada. And I'm not going to commit suicide anymore, because I'm over that. Now I'm an advocate. I want to just write about this. I find it fascinating, how divisive Canada is, but why, right? I mean, it's become sort of a social, educational class for me. Yeah, I see huge problems. I do believe that Canada will fail, will fall apart. Um, we will drive people into the homelessness and the drug deaths and the dealers and the backed up courts, because the courts are stuffed with family law matters that do not need to be in these courts. They should hire professionals to look after these minor things. And remember, these judges aren't even reading most of your material. They're just there to make sure that you go to another court case and another court case. And I've been to court. Oh God, I lost track at about 50. Again, I don't smoke, I don't drink. Why was I denied access to my own children? Why was I denied joint custody of my own children? Because Canada is broken. It's parasitic, and to some degree, maybe the people, at the top know that we're doomed in the next short little while. Can't imagine who would go fight for this country. Um, you know, so this lady who just tried to kill her children is being accused by the Crown, which is the Crown lawyers, um, was a soldier for Canada. Do you think she would go fight for this country after the government, which in Canada, the government runs the judicial system, would go fight for her country? Or would she be able to go fight for her country? I mean, we're so fucked up from our corrupt, parasitic, capitalistic government that even if we said yes, we want to go fight, I mean, how could we? I mean, I've had health conditions caused by the family law industry that have just devastated me. Fuck, you can send a whole group of PTSD people into fight. Canada doesn't have that many people to begin with, and we're fucking up hundreds of thousands of parents and children every single year with our highly, highly, highly corrupt family law industry and basically a judicial system that's highly corrupt and all political and profit driven. And this is extremely concerning. But what's extremely concerning is I've been telling the CBC this, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, for years and sending them literally hundreds and hundreds of documents showing how corrupt the Canadian Judicial Council is, down to the law societies, sending them audio recordings of lawyers, audio recordings of judges, corrupt lawyers, corrupt judges, um, sending them this stuff, and they don't even respond. And this is also Global, who I've sent many, many documents to, and they don't even respond. But when they put out an article, such as this mom trying to being accused of killing her own children, and there's just one last week in Richmond, a murder suicide. Mom did this, but mostly it's a lot of times it's men murder suicide. There was another pillow case in um, I wrote about earlier in Maple, or is it? It's in New Westminster. A mom snuffed out her child with a pillow. She was going to try to kill herself and never got around to that part, and she got 15 years. And of course, the judge has let her out of jail now because, again, the judicial system is about making money. Um, and it costs, I think they say it costs $600 a day to house somebody in jail. So judges are letting all these people go. So they're basically fucking people up and then letting them go back onto the street. And so this cancer, it's like going to the hospital and pulling out the cancers out of people. Not all of it, just maybe 25% of it, and then putting the cancers in a whole bunch of other people. This is spreading, and we see it. I mean, I don't go to Vancouver anymore because it's a cesspool, but the few times I do go, so obviously I do go, I've noticed the homeless camps and the debauchery and the drug, it's just it's fucked. It's just a fucked up place. And I the first thing I noticed when I went to Vancouver last time was I pulled into a rest stop to use the washroom out on the number one by Abbotsford. I think it's Clearbrook, actually, the Clearbrook rest stop, side of the road, and it's been taken over. It's a shanty town. There's all these old beat up trailers and people are living at the rest stop. So you don't even want to go use the bathroom anymore because I mean, it's just debauchery and garbage everywhere. And I do say that this is related to our judicial system is broken. It's political. And I don't know how other people don't put the connection together. When you emotionally screw people up in our judicial system over and over and over again in the name of profit, and it all comes down to the family law system. And I don't really have time to explain that, like how connected this is, but the best way to think of this is you look at residential Indian schools, and when the Canadian government again took children away from parents, they fractured the family. They saw the damage it did. I mean, it screwed a lot of natives up. I grew up in a town that was half indigenous. Again, politically correct nonsense. My friends still call themselves Indians. Um, it fucked them up for generations. They're still fucked up. There's people living in little shacks in my town behind where I grew up, and they're still, all these years later, like 10 by 10 boxes they built themselves to live in -20 weather as fingers are falling off and their noses are, getting frostbite. And it's just awesome people, though. So kind-hearted, and I gotta say, like, oh my God, I met one in the emergency department. Such a nice guy, and he just had such a rough life. But anyways, we know what this mass separation of children from parents does in the long haul. We saw it with Indigenous families, but now the Canadian government, through our judicial system, because of course the PMO, the Prime Minister's office, appoints all the Supreme Court judges, and then provincial judges take direction from the Supreme Court and the rules and the acts that the PMO's office and the federal government write. And they're doing it to everybody now. They're fracturing all the families, hundreds of thousands of families every single year being fractured and broken and separated. And I believe this will be the demise of Canada. And the sad thing is when you watch this full global news report, it's hidden. It's intentionally hidden that this is a family law matter. You have to dip into it to see that it was a mom being denied access, being denied joint custody. The psychological effect of that is massive, absolutely massive. When you take a child away from a parent and a parent away from a child, whether it be the mom, whether it be the dad, and I don't want to, most of the time, 99%, well, 95% of the time, they take the children away from the dad. And these things happen. People break, they snap, and they kill, or they commit suicide. Mostly it's suicide. Murder suicides, though, are getting more and more common. Like, again, one just happened in Richmond last week. Again, you have to read into the article what happened, because the Globals, the CTVs, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation they do not want to get into this. The federal government has said, we don't want you talking about murder suicides. And the idea is if we talk about it, more people will do it. And that's absolute bullshit, right? You can't fix a problem unless you talk about it. But yeah, I think we're doomed. I will also, at the very end of this, put a really interesting news article. And again, there was a fella in Saskatchewan last year who used a knife, and he killed, I think it was 10 or 11 people and wounded a whole bunch more. He was a native fella. And the truth is coming out now that he was going through divorce and they banned him from seeing his own children. And it was the CBC who reported that. And if you watch those news clips, the newest ones, and remember this happened a year ago, and finally right now they're letting out a little bit of information that a judge in his divorce banned him from seeing his own 5 children. And that's why he snapped. And now they're having this inquiry, but of course these inquiries would be done by the elite, highly, highly profit-driven elite who will not tell us the truth. They'll all charge maybe $100,000 each for this inquiry, and the truth will never come out. But I don't think we need the truth anymore. For the elite to tell us, to admit that family law and corrupt judges and corrupt lawyers are destroying this country. I think the proof is right here. Every single day you'll see a murder suicide. Well, you won't see them because the news doesn't report them all. But you'll if you get the stats, you'll see how many suicides, how many attempted suicides, and many suicides are covered up. And I've explained this before, that I had a friend in North Vancouver committed suicide. A doctor had fudged the paperwork so the mom could collect life insurance, because if you commit suicide in Canada as a male, your spouse will not get the life insurance. So doctors will fudge those records because they think the mom will starve to death. In this case, my friend in North Vancouver, they were quite wealthy, and she was a New York magazine writer, and she was already cheating on him, but she now lives like an absolute effing king and has uh, like the house is incredible. It's mind-boggling. She did not need his life insurance money, but I mean, would say no to a couple extra $100,000 bonus, right? Corrupt. Um, so it's hard to know if this is corrupt. Um, it is. It's fudge paperwork where some dude committed suicide. He hung himself in his garage, and somehow the doctor was able to fudge his paperwork to make it an accident. A rope around his neck in his garage has text that he just had committed suicide. He was committing suicide to get attention. He was a fucking drama queen. But anyways, I don't want to be little. I don't know the whole story. I just know that he was getting fucked in his divorce. He was going through a divorce, and he knew he was cheating. She was cheating, and he hung himself. And there was no way that you could say that wasn't a suicide. But the the doctors are very powerful, and lawyers and judges. I mean, judges are gods in Canada, and they're all working on this toxic political correct world they believe they're trying to create. And I honestly, I don't think people are that easily manipulated, and there's blowback. There's the social cancer, the system's falling apart. No one believes in it. And a lot of us, I mean, here's Canada, and I know I got PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, every time I see one of these articles, you can see how passionate I get. I watch this news report, and I'm like, fuck, another parent's killed their goddamn kids or tried to kill their goddamn kids. Why? Why would a parent do that? We were born with such an innate, powerful, primal instinct to protect our children, yet we have the elite, the corrupt at the top, the profit driven, driving the ship into the rocks. And yeah, you can say it's all conspiracy. Watch. I 100% guarantee that Canada is failing, will fail, and the homelessness, the drug deaths, the despair, the distrust in government, um, all the things, this Canada's broken movement is all connected to the federal government policy, law, and greed. And I don't know. I mean, just watch. You just watch, right? Anyways, who's really on trial here is not the mom. I'm not putting her on trial here with this little talk. Is I am putting Global News on trial, and I'm putting this for making this sneaky little article on this reporting of this court case that's going on right now with this mom who was ex-army person, tried to kill her, accused of killing her kids. But I'm putting Global on trial here, and I'm putting CBC on trial here, and I'm putting the federal government of Canada on trial here. I also want to say is I almost feel sorry for the federal government now. I know they're idiots. I know the government's idiots. It's hard to run a world with just blanket policies for everyone, right? And I know the economists need the money. They need to keep raping and pillaging parents for their money to put it back into the system to keep basically our broken system going. But I don't think they can stop it now. I think the wheels are rolling so fast, and other countries, I'm going to name China here, you see people on production floors. And I used to work in industry. Well, I worked in many industries in my life, but you see all these people, and they're slim, and they're hardworking, and they are nationalistic, and they're able to work in these factories, thousands and thousands and millions of people working in these factories, creating wealth for the country. And I look at Canadians, I look at myself, would I be able to work in a factory like that? No, I don't have the mental capacity anymore, the concentration to do that. I don't have the will. I don't even, honestly, I don't even care anymore, right? I mean, that's how bad it is. You take someone's kid away, they don't care. But, the depression, and the antidepressant medications, and I know it's just kind of a rant, but all this taking children away from their parents and lying about it and not wanting to fix it and having our court system plugged up with family law matters as judges just want to fill their pockets and fill their friends' pockets full of money. And it is just kangaroo court, and it's corrupt, and it's non-human. Like, honestly, when you go to court, you are not a human. You are a number, and judges only look at you as a means to extract money from you. Lawyers only look at you as a means to extract money out of you. They do not see you as a person. I don't know how they could be so short-sighted to not see that all these people that they're spinning out of the court system and spitting them out broken, depressed, denied access to their own children, denied, the psychological power of those being your own children, right? I mean, oh, sorry, you don't have joint custody of your own children anymore. Maybe if you come here with another $100,000, you could win it, right?
Later, the mother told court she believed both sons were simultaneously sleepwalking that night. Not long after, all three children were coughing and she went to investigate, but she said smoke was burning her throat and eyes, so she went back into her bedroom, closed the door, and tried to call 911, but she was struggling to walk. She eventually lost consciousness before neighbors saved her and her kids from the home. The accused also spoke about one of the Crown's key pieces of evidence, a letter she wrote that says, quote, "By the time you're reading this, I'll either be in jail or dead." It was mailed to a friend of the accused along with $10,000 cash, money she'd just withdrawn from two of her bank accounts, almost completely draining them. She said it was written after the fire, but her son previously testified she asked him to mail the letter the morning before the fire. The Crown argues it's proof she wanted to kill her kids and herself, rather than see their father have primary custody of them.